Well, good morning to you, everybody. Mark Sudduth, Hurricane Track here. It's Monday now, the 15th day of December 2025. Good to have you with me on our third week here now of talking weather. I will be solo today in terms of hosting duties. Tomorrow, CJ Morgan, Florida Man Weather, will return to co-host, and we'll talk about that later on towards the end of today's update. Live presentation, whatever you want to call it. It is live, so and it is an update. And I'm going to just do a little bit of banter here as we wait for people's notifications to come in and for them to fire up their YouTube and to jump on and join here live. So, welcome to Banter Time with Mark Sudduth. Good to see you. So let me, kind of share my screen and we'll talk about what we're going to discuss today. We'll start with that. Talking weather, back with you here, our third week, as I mentioned. And happy Monday to you. Here's our talking points. Look, I know that the baby it's cold outside has already been taken, so I changed it to dude it's cold outside because it is. But that being said, I'm going to show you something that you might not believe. I couldn't believe it when I saw it, considering how cold it is, like here in Wilmington, North Carolina, where I am. And I did. I walked out to start my truck this morning to take the kids to school. And I was literally saying to myself, dude, it's cold outside, like legit cold. It was 19 degrees here this morning. But anyway, I'll show you something really interesting about this current cold snap that, again, I had to verify it. I was like, wait, what? You'll see. Yeah, it's still flooding in Washington State, and it's going to be more active with the weather out there this week as well. Then finally, we do have a big warm up coming for most of the lower 48. And as we get towards Christmas and beyond, that's just 10 days away. That's hard to believe. It looks like it's going to be California's turn to get in on the atmospheric river buffet, whatever, right? As these storms get served off the Pacific, thanks in a little bit of part there due to the Aleutian Low and how it pinwheels everything in. So those are our four main bullet points for today. Let me jump back off to go full screen. I always like to check in with you guys right here. I have the YouTube chat pulled up on my phone, and it's nice to see who's tuned in. We have Vanda on here and Colorado Clouds. I'm not cold, says Colorado Clouds. That's good weather, Scott. And my friend Brad, I saw him the other day, 25 at the Outer Banks. We saw him Saturday. Sunny and lovely and not freezing in Colorado Springs. That's interesting. Brad is OBX drone guy, so look, I have outed him. But good to see you, everybody. Yeah, so it was pretty cold here, 19 degrees, I think officially here in Wilmington, North Carolina, where I am, and warming up to about the upper 30s today. But let me just show you a few things here as we progress through today's show that are kind of surprising. First, let's jump into the yesterday. We'll go into the past just a little bit. Sorry, microphone, I bumped you there. National high and low temperatures for Sunday, December the 14th. Get the old telestrator here. Actually, if I don't have the telestrator up, I don't think it captures it. Now we are prepared. Now we can share the screen and we can do this properly. All right. So national high and low temperatures for yesterday. We'll use yellow here. The low temperature, we'll start with that. Let's get that out of the way, which is going to lead into what I show you for, you'll see. I was just shocked at this. Anyway, negative 29 degrees up here in Badura, Minnesota, roughly right in there, north central Minnesota. Minus 29 makes my 19 on the positive side down here in Wilmington. This is where I am. That's nothing, right? What do they say? Those are rookie numbers. And then a balmy 86 degrees out here in the Catalina foothills area near Tucson, Arizona. And we have a tie, the first tie that we have shown, not the first time it's ever happened, but since we've been doing this show, again, this is our third week in. This is the first tie that I have had to put together on this map. And again, I like to brag because we are in the world of AI. This is not AI generated. This is 100% Mark generated. And that's important because a lot of stuff can be done with that snap of a finger with ChatGPT or some other generative AI, but I like making maps. So here you go. So that's yesterday's highs and lows for you, which, as I show you something coming up, remember this minus 29 here. That's very important to note. All right. So there we go. That's out of the way. This is what the scene looks like right now on the national weather map. And a few things to notice here. We use red and we'll get that stroke line nice and thick. Broken record, right? Still just so unsettled up here in the Pacific Northwest. And it is my understanding that Fox Weather's Robert Ray is either already there or en route to Washington State over here to cover on a national scale. He did such a phenomenal job down there in Jamaica for Fox Weather, and now he's out there. Robert Ray, his storytelling, the ability of him to just use an iPhone on a selfie stick and mix everything together. I am not kidding. In full disclosure, I work with Fox Weather. I get a paycheck from them from time to time. Yes, disclaimer, as they say, but I'm serious. He is one of the best in the biz, and I'm glad he's going out there to cover this flooding situation in Washington State. I was thinking about going out there, but different logistics and so forth. I didn't, so I'm here. But it's good to see Mr. Ray will be out there and he'll put his talents to use because it is still very unsettled out there. We got some winter storm watches now, high wind watch, high wind warning, flood warning, just a litany here of advisories and warnings and so forth. Gale, flood, high wind, special weather statement, wind advisory, just yuck. And it's because of these atmospheric rivers that keep streaming in, and we can look at the satellite. Well, maybe when I clicked on that thumbnail there, it's misleading. Talk about a misleading thumbnail. We never see those on YouTube videos, do we? Especially related to the weather. That's misleading. It looks like, surely you can see that like I can, that if I click on that, that it would be the west. No, you have to go to this and actually do some work. Anyway, or maybe it is. Okay, I see what it did. It is the west, and then it gives you a menu of all the different channels of satellite views that you can look at. Anyway, this is pretty cool. You can see some of that energy coming in to the Pacific Northwest still, and a very unsettled pattern out that way. So, meanwhile, back east, this is a storm warning well offshore, just so you know. And you have gale warnings in effect in the lighter purple here into the nearshore waters with all kinds of winter related, cold temperature related advisories through these areas that you see. Cold weather advisory to frost and freeze warnings, things like that. And then up here in New York, I tell you what, it's too bad I don't have my own private jet because I could fly up to Watertown and do the show from the hotel and then go out and cover. And maybe we'll get around to this, not a private jet, but you know, that's eventually what I want to be able to do is cover a weather story, but we do the show before we go out into the field. And since this is done at 10 a.m. Eastern time, that works really well. To my point, I'm a little jealous for anybody that's up here in Watertown because I love a good lake effect snow event. And they've got some lake snows coming in. You can see this okay radar. Come on, Weather Service. We got to get, I mean, radar scope is better, in my opinion. You do what you can with what you got, right? Here's what it looks like on the nice infographic up here, and I will open it in a new tab. Oh, there we go. Very nice. So we have the lake effect snow warning for areas along the I-81 corridor, Watertown, and then from the west of there, you start to drop it off to a winter weather advisory because these lake effect bands, very localized, very narrow, and not very widespread usually. One thing to note about, oh, that's a tab, that's right, about this area, in the Syracuse area, I think it is, I have to go look on my Discord. We're getting ready to send a camera. We're going to call it our traveling camera. It's going to go live up in New York State for a few weeks at one of our supporters' houses. Her name is Alice, and she and her husband are going to host this camera. We're also going to send one out to Wichita to live with our good friend Matt Harding out there. And he'll have it on his porch from time to time in Wichita when they get some snow, and then it'll bleed over into spring severe. Yeah, we have these traveling cameras, these remote cams. I can't be everywhere. So on our Patreon, we've started this little program, and I'm getting ready to ship some cameras out this week. So I'll be able to show those to you, and then those people can recharge them and show something else, when it snows again. So that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to doing that. Back to the national map, that's pretty much it. The cold has come down, and usually that very cold air, that dense cold air, scours everything out. Deep trough coming in, sharp trough, and you just don't have much weather behind it because the air has come in and swept everything away. But the cold air moving over the relatively warm lakes, you get the lake effect snow with even a minor amount of instability. So again, dropping off, I want to jump on, see who's on now. Let's see who's checking in. We got Catherine Burkett. Excellent to see you from way over in the United Kingdom. Thanks for tuning in again. And our friend Kathy down in Fernandina Beach put a photo in Discord taken early this cold morning. Thanks for letting me know. That is the beauty of our Patreon here that we can find. Let's see if I can find it. I'm looking for it. Where is it? I don't see it just yet. Let me see if I missed it somehow. So, Kathy, down in Fernandina, let me know where you put that exactly, which of our channels, please. Because I'm looking and I don't see it just yet. So I know we do have the um, specific channel set up for talking weather photos. And I think the last one that I see here is from the 9th. So Kathy, if you don't mind, drop it in the talking weather photos channel and then I'll show it. And since I got this up, I can show you guys what this looks like. We did set up this special channel in our Discord server. This is on our Patreon. And we've got some, like, this is a nice ring around the moon from our friend Kari, also known as Spooky. This is back on the 5th. So, yeah, Kathy, if you're listening and still watching, drop that photo in there and I can show it as soon as you do so. But yeah, good to see everybody. Let's see who else we have on here. Yeah, the Talking Weather channel, but I don't see it in there. That's weird. Very weird. Um, so we'll wait. We'll wait and see if we can resolve that. Maybe it's too cold. There it is. Now it showed up. So let's share the screen again. This is fun stuff. I like this. So this is what a chilly, cold. Oh, look, you're pretty close to the ocean. That just looks cold, even for Northeast Florida standards. This is the Fernandina Beach area. And, I can tell, meteorologically speaking, since this is December, that this is a cold environment. And let me teach you something here. This is really cool. When you get the cold air that comes out, these leftover low stratus clouds here, these stratocumulus layers, right, are indicative of that cold air moving over the Atlantic. And I can show you what that looks like on satellite. And that's how you know, even without AI, like searching stuff up, that you're looking at a cold environment. So there it is. That's what it looks like on satellite. All that low stratocumulus right there, that right there is exactly, let's see if we can zoom in here because this is really neat. I want to, like I said, teach you something, and then you can just look like an absolute genius the next time you're at a Christmas party or whatever. So there it is. These are those clouds streaming right in there to Fernandina Beach, that leftover low cloud deck, and that is what it looks like. Of course, I'm not sharing my screen anymore, so I messed that up. You're probably yelling, let's do it again. So, and hey, I have the right satellite perspective anyway. So this is the low cloud deck left over from that cold air advection, and those low clouds are moving in just enough to Fernandina Beach, so that's exactly what we're seeing there. Pretty cool. Literally, you get that because of the cold weather. Now, had this been August, I would say, okay, if you tell me this is August, I can tell you you have a lot of high humidity and probably onshore flow to blow all that warm Atlantic air onshore. And so it's very moist outside. But in the winter, it's the exact opposite. It's the cold, dense air moving out over the relatively warm Atlantic, very warm Atlantic, especially where the Gulf Stream is. And bingo, you get that stratocumulus deck. Pretty neat, isn't it? So thanks for sharing that, Kathy. I do appreciate it. Share your screen. I know. I figured it out. Sorry. All right. We just should keep the screen shared the whole time, but then I'm just a little square, and I don't like being square. All right. Whoops. I unshared. Didn't mean to do that. I'm trying to get out of this Discord uh, channel picture here. Nope. Escape. There we go. My computer, or maybe it's just me just being crazy today. So look, this is what I want to show you where I was like, you got to be kidding me. I looked up on the Mesonet site. If you just Google current national temps, there's a whole bunch of different sites, national, whatever. And this was a really good one. It's from data from NORS National Weather Service, but it gets plotted on this thematic map. That's what it's called. And the theme, of course, in this situation is air temperature. And I was looking at it and I was like, well, this just can't be right. Why do you think I was saying that? There's no negative numbers on here. And I thought, well, maybe there's a glitch. Surely there has to be somewhere, and these are your current temperatures as of 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. Surely there must be some negative numbers out there. Now, this is not every station in the lower 48, obviously, but there are no negative numbers. And there are certainly no like deeply negative. You don't see any -8 or -12, right? Like nothing stands out. So you look at the legend and the gradient over here. Here's your cold air, certainly the heart of it. But even through the Ohio Valley, some single digits. And again, I know if you drill down and look at more local areas, especially in the lower hollows and whatever valleys, you're going to find some negative numbers. Yes. But on the national map here, no negative numbers. And I thought, well, wait a minute. I just had in my headline over here, dude, it's cold outside. Yes, it is unusually cold where we are in southeast North Carolina, for example, North Florida, but it's not record cold elsewhere. Isn't that interesting? And the reason behind it is the way the trough has come in is just sharp enough, and there's just enough cold air that it just drained it down uh, in the right exact spot so that it feels a lot colder where we are than, say, farther to the north, right? So it's just an interesting situation. It's relative. It's relative because and this is where it really comes to light here. I was at the gym yesterday doing the elliptical, and I forgot my earbuds, so I have to hear everybody around me. Great. It's always fun. And there's a dude behind me on like this bike thing, and he was talking to the fitness center attendant. His name was Paul. And this guy, I hear him go, Paul, here it's going to be really cold tonight, 19 degrees. And Paul's reading his book or whatever. Yeah, it is, right? And I'm sitting there, all right, this should be interesting. I'm a weather guy. Where's this going? He goes, it reminds me of home. And I was like, okay, so this guy is from up north, very typical down here in North Carolina. A lot of people retire in Wilmington. All right, interesting. And he goes, if it's that cold down here, I can't imagine what it is back home. And I didn't ask him where he's from, but that got me thinking when I saw this map today. Interesting. And I didn't, maybe I should have gone over. I don't like getting in other people's business. You butt in on their conversation and you become some kind of a know-it-all or whatever, mansplaining to people, right? But it got me thinking when I saw this today. The gentleman was recognizing it is cold in Wilmington where we are now, and I'm assuming he's from somewhere up north up here. 22 currently, roughly. 19 was the morning low. Even if he is from somewhere here in Indiana and it's 1 degree, that's not that much colder than 19 if you think about it geographically. So, no, it must not be, here's my point, way colder up north. And I think if he were to look at a map like this, he would be surprised. So it's relative to where you are. Yeah, it's cold down here. Dude, it's cold outside. But it's not that much colder up here because there's no negative numbers. I know I've dragged that out and probably whatever confused you a little bit, but isn't that interesting? I thought it was. So I thought I'd share it with you. All right. Speaking of cold and blustery and whatnot, here's a live shot. We have our OBX drone guy on here, Brad. I was just up here on Saturday replacing this camera or at least getting it ready, we have to pair the camera to the pier and their Wi-Fi, and I have to do it in person. Usually, sometimes there's ways around it. And I wanted to do some testing, which I'll get to in a minute. The other three cameras are doing fantastic. And again, there's that low, except this one, that low, and that's just a Nest problem. There's that low stratocumulus cloud cover from that cold air that has settled in. But yeah, a couple things to point out. Brad Hanson, that lives up there, very close to right here at the Rodanthe Pier. Look at all the beach that they've got now. And Mike Farrow, my good friend Mike Farrow from here in Wilmington, he went with me, and there is a tremendous amount of beach that has built up here just in this part of Rodanthe. Still have a pretty good dent over here where it's much closer to the houses, but the accretion of sand and the accumulation of it, if I could just get this northern camera to come back to life here. And again, it's a Nest thing. They just like, there it is, ask and ye shall receive. This is absolutely incredible to see all of this additional sand. It's now starting to try to take over the entrance to the pier. This is not bulldozed and shoveled and blown in by man. It is the beach doing its thing. It's growing back again after a pretty brutal few years. I did not go down to Buxton to see how they're doing, but this is some coastal engineering cool stuff. It really is. And I'm going to share this with my friend Dr. Ryan Meares at UNC Wilmington. I visited the owner of the house that this camera is on and this camera. We don't see that house in any of our shots because the camera is on the house. Her name is Hillary, and she was just elated because this is a view from her house. That is her pool. And her pool got washed into in the last year or so, and now there's all this extra sand. Now, look, one storm and things can change in a heartbeat. I get it, but this is really good news for this little stretch here of the Outer Banks, and I thought I'd point that out to you. The other thing I want to point out to you, let me just let you watch this for a second. Look at that. That's the drone shot that we took as the sun was setting on Saturday evening. Wow. And you also see clearly what a thin strip of land this is. And I know people are going to start saying, why do people build there? That's why. It's worth it, I guess, right? It is just amazing out there. It is tranquil, usually, and just beautiful, beautiful stuff. But it is that's the Outer Banks. That's literally what it looks like from 200 feet up. But we were doing some experimenting with the drone related to upcoming weather coverage that we're going to be doing in the spring. And all of that testing was, well, let me tell you, it exceeded our expectations. Let me replay that. I say, let me replay that. Come on, play it. Thank you. Just a beautiful sunset scene there in Rodanthe along the North Carolina Outer Banks. And I do want to pause it to show you again, if you could just understand this, if you know the area, the accretion of sand all throughout here is really, really good news. But just to the south, it's much different still, showing you the delicate nature and the intricacies of how coastal engineering, and I don't mean engineering like you build a house engineering, just the whole how nature engineers the beach and then how mankind can come in and engineer the beach too. It's all related. Really, really cool stuff. So I'm glad that you got to see it. All right. What do we got on here? It's hip to be square, right? A square, anyway. Um, let's see. It did not get down to 25 in the Springs. We are being absolutely dominated by high pressure. Yeah, out there in Colorado, we're going to talk about that uh, in my next part coming up, where I look at Twitter and all my bookmarks. Very, very warm, generally speaking, out west. And that's going to start to spread to the east soon, which I'm very much looking forward to. Weather, Scott, has the more significant snowfall in the Great Lakes over the last couple of weeks provided insulation to allow more of the cold to reach the southern mid-Atlantic? Just a little bit, but it is not widespread enough. And what you're talking about there is a great point, that when you lay down snowpack, it helps the cold air advection, the lateral or horizontal movement of cold air, become more efficient, and it helps to radiate temperatures and sunlight, and which equals temperature rise and fall on our planet anyway, with the albedo, the reflection, and there's just not a lot of it. So the lake effect snows are somewhat adequate, but we're not quite there yet. I know what you're driving at. We need a really big snowstorm to come in and lay down sort of a antecedent snowpack that then cold air coming from that on, like if a trough stays in the east, would have a much more efficient time making it farther to the south. Um, it doesn't hurt, but it's not really significant just yet. And we can see that, and that's a very good point brought up from Weather Scott. On the satellite here, the sun just coming up, so I can pause it about right there. You can see some snow cover hidden under these clouds. We just need a really clear day. There's just not a lot. There are enough patches in here of brown still that it's patchy, this snow cover that you're talking about there, that it's not aiding in the most efficient cold air advection, to put it in meteorological terms. That's a great question. I appreciate that. All right. Appropriate, and I like this Twitter handle here, Midwest versus the rest. The famous scene there from The Shining when Jack Nicholson, his character, supposedly died. We'll see. If you saw the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Maybe he died for good. Uh, exactly. This is how I felt this morning to some extent when I came out to get ready for the kids to go to school. And then another one, I've got three of them because I have done this. How many of you, raise your hand, have done this? The defrost will take care of it. I love it, man. Weather humor. Come on. Sometimes you just have to laugh. I have done this even in lake effect snow areas where it's just that thick. Because you're not going to get snow like that down in Wilmington very often. It'll happen once in a blue moon, whatever. But how many of you have done that where you're just like, you know what? I am just not going to scrape that. I'm going to see if my defrost can do it. I've done that before and it doesn't work. I love this one. Some of the comments, I usually say it'll melt by July and I'm always right. And then Dillo, I don't know any of these people. These are just the comments. You know how they say, don't read the comments, but sometimes you just gotta. Just clear a hole on the driver's side windshield and then drive fast and the rest will blow off. Done that as well. And in fact, for those of you up north know, and you're probably getting ready to say this, that's illegal. You are supposed to clear everything off, especially up top, and not let it fly off because it can get really hard, like miniature glaciers, and then you bust the windshields of people behind you. But I'm guilty of this. Does that look like a Hyundai or a Subaru? What's under there? Interesting. See what you guys think in the chat. What kind of car is that? It looks like a Hyundai. I think that's a Hyundai, maybe a Tucson or something. Anyway, um, if you have an auto start which begins at 1 a.m., yep, it'll blow off as I get out of my neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. Yep, I've done that before. Last one from Midwest versus the rest, a Midwestern roundabout. That's why I like that Twitter handle, man. That is hilarious stuff. And I've seen those big snow piles. I don't think I've seen them in the Midwest, but this obviously happened, and you can tell it's not AI because the picture looks like garbage. Overall, you know what I mean. It looks like an old picture. Yeah, I've seen some big snow piles in my day, and that, my friends, is funny. I don't care. Yeah, I just choked on my coffee. Exactly. All right, so a few more little headline things for you that I bookmarked. This was pretty cool. We had the Geminid meteor shower over the weekend. I myself didn't see any. I didn't go out. Too cold, whatever. It was a little cloudy too, very windy and blustery. But this is Paul M. Smith. Paul M. Smith Photo does a terrific job. I got to get a camera that'll do that. I'm telling you what, just amazing. And that's real. Again, that's a meteor. And of course, meteors are very small, sometimes just the size of a grain of rice. And they hit the atmosphere like Neil deGrasse Tyson would be good to explain this. They come into the atmosphere. Anyway, they hit the atmosphere so hard that the kinetic energy burns up, and we see it burning up, and it's the energy. It's because they're moving fast. If that same, and I'm not saying that that's the size of a piece of rice, it might be like a pebble. Point is, that is not a school bus creating that. Meteors are usually very, very small, but because they are moving so fast, the kinetic energy that is released creates the fireworks show that we get to see here on Earth. And then you have geniuses like Paul M. Smith that are able to slow it down for us to really enjoy the beauty, streaking through the constellation Orion there, and a red meteor to boot. So well done there, Paul. I'm very glad you shared that on Twitter so that the rest of us could see it. All right, so Colorado Springs, we have Colorado Clouds there on the YouTube chat. Not too far from Flagstaff, I mean, relatively speaking. And you know all too well out there in Colorado, it's been very warm. National Weather Service Flagstaff, my chair is sinking again. And I got to tell you something funny about that. I'm gonna come back. This reminded me to tell you a funny story. My sinking hydraulic chair, it's annoying. Similar to yesterday, today we'll have high clouds that gradually decrease throughout the day and temperatures 10 to 20 degrees above normal. Enjoy the warm December weather. And to the point there that Colorado Clouds was making, it's been pretty warm out west. Shay Gibson, we had him on the other day talking about contrails and how they are not chemtrails. Anyway, great post from him. This was yesterday, such a pretty day out, and we hit 71 here in Wando, South Carolina, where he is. Wild to think that we're going to drop nearly 50 degrees over the next 12 to 14 hours, and that is exactly what happened. Anybody that has a little star on their windshield from a rock, enjoy the giant cracks that have formed since then. This is the kind of weather that'll do that. The freeze thaw in action. Saw this ocean effect snow off the east coast of Massachusetts. And this is from Caitlin. She is a meteorologist working on her graduate research assistant, so obviously very smart. A lot of lake effect stuff comes from her account, just so you know. And this was really cool. Oh, it's a GIF image, so I can't expand it. That's fine. But there's Boston. There is your arm of Cape Cod right there, just to outline it for you. And that, my friends, is ocean effect snow. Very cold air moving over the relatively warm Cape Cod Bay / Western Atlantic, whatever you want to call it. And you get just enough instability. Caitlin would know exactly what CAPE you need, the convective available potential energy. I don't know these things. I don't know everything. Nordstrom would know, Greg Nordstrom, but you had just enough CAPE. You have to have instability, right, to create ocean effect snow. Pretty cool stuff. All right. Finally, well, almost finally, this is good to see because it's going to shift the moisture pattern south out of Washington and Oregon, and it's going to start helping the Golden State, also known as California. And this is from Colin, very, very popular account here on the Twitter. Confidence is increasing in a major pattern change for much of California with significant storm activity arriving during Christmas week. Not good news for that, but hey, you got to take it when you can get it. And atmospheric rivers possible. Storms will initially arrive in Northern California midweek, with rain mostly north of the Golden Gate area, right? And then are expected to be very warm. The overall pattern with snow levels above 7,000 feet. This should finally break up the fog. And was that Thule or Tool, whatever it is, Thule fog in the Central Valley. Progressively colder storms may follow closer to Christmas, potentially reaching southern Cal, but uncertainty, of course, remains high beyond 7 days. And by the way, because we know we end on the rumors of storms deal there, that, my friends, is how you put context to something that might happen beyond 7 days. That's how you do it. You don't post the graphic of something beyond 7 days and then say, this is not a forecast. Hate that. But anyway, that's how you do it. So we'll be watching for this because that could be some good news just as a snapshot here over the next 10 days plus, liquid precip equivalents, whatnot, maybe even getting down towards Vegas. My friend Tracy out there, Paul over in Pahrump, get ready. Maybe some moisture headed their way. All right. I'm going to show you this thing before we go regarding Patreon, but we'll do that in just a little while. Let's take a real quick look at the YouTube chat before we get into the forecast. See what all we got. Any questions we have? That is a Hyundai. Very good. I thought so. Also, it's likely icy below the snowpack. That's true. Under the car, right? You saw snow piles on Cape Cod, yeah, back in 22. Sure did. Good memory there, Vanda. We got Karen on and Javier. Good to see you, buddy. In the 70s down there. Well, of course you are in the 70s because you're in South Florida, where the cold air has a difficult time making it. All right, let's look at a couple things before we jump into the forecast. This is what basically is the surface map, more or less. You have your surface high, 1039 millibars there over the east, 1038 out over the central Rockies. Not a lot of weather in between. Your lake snows around here. Big, sprawling, high pressure chunk of cold air coming out of Canada. And then the next storm system knocking on the door of the Pacific Northwest. But this is what it looks like at about 18,000 feet up. This is your anomaly in the atmosphere. So you have anomalous high pressure out west, and that's what's kept it so warm. Anomalous troughing in the east, but these are your anomalies. Let's just look at the overall um, actual, what am I trying to say here? Like the heights, right? So this is your 500 millibar heights, and the short wave has moved off. Look how quick that was. That's the energy. And this was my point earlier. It is not phenomenally cold. Just a recap, going back to, especially if you just came in, the reason we don't see a bunch of these numbers up here significantly negative, and it is still very cold down here where I am, this explains it easily. Not that, that. This trough that has swung through is a short wave, right? It's not long, like deep. It, and it and it's the overall trajectory of it that's I'm trying to get this through to you, that's not longitudinal. So what I mean by that, this is a quick shot of cold air, and it's very, come on, with the dying um, uh, tabs. What are we doing? What's going on, Firefox? Where'd you go? Let's see what happened. Um, where am I? Which one? That one. Thank you. I don't know what happened there. That is weird. Wild, weird stuff. It's so cold, my computer's possessed. This trough is sharp, but it is not longitudinal, digging down all the way to Florida. You see that? Yes, there's some lower heights, and yes, it got a little colder, but the worst of it was remaining fairly far to the north. And what we have not seen with this is another reinforcing deep shot coming that just brings that cold air down. And it's the angle that we're talking about is a very sharp trough. It's not longitudinal coming cross polar flow from like Siberia over the pole or the Northwest Territories or Alaska. It's coming down out of Eastern Canada. So the source region matters. It is too cold. I can't even get my words right. The source region and the angle of the trough and the shape of it matters so that it's cold, yes, but it is not brutal cold up north where actually heights are starting to build again. Anyway, meteorologically, that's why. All right. All right. Let's go back to the actual weather map itself. Easier to explain this. I don't know. Maybe it is just too cold. Hey, we're up to the 12Z running already, but I beat it this time. So here's the next 7 days on the 6Z GFS. Now, this is interesting. At 102 hours out, we could get a pretty good snowstorm all the way down the Appalachians into the Carolinas there. That would be pretty good for ski areas, especially heading into Christmas. Pretty good cyclone up there. That's just the technical term for it. 984 millibars, way up there in Canada. And then, as has been the case these last many years, the storm track, instead of a Miller B cutting across and giving us a quick nor'easter or a good Miller A that cuts up the coast like that, it's like they just bypass altogether the East Coast with the actual surface low. So we're not parking any of these surface lows right off the benchmark. They're way up here in eastern Quebec. It's like, what are you doing? What's happening? But you get some decent lake snows out of it for what it's worth. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch at about hour 108. This gets us up to this coming Friday. More storminess out west, as you can see, through the Rockies, Pacific Northwest. And then once we get out to 1 week, next Monday, there, the 22nd, kind of quiet overall. Northwest to west northwest flow across the lakes, keeping the lake machine full tilt. and then a smattering of snow and whatever out in the Rockies and the West. That's about it. Luckily, no convective activity seen of any nature or consequence over the next few days. Today, no thunderstorms at all, none forecast. You don't see that very often. Tomorrow, just limited convection down here in the eastern parts of Texas and way up here in northwest Washington state, where I mentioned Robert Ray will be, or is, or both. And the reason that you have this up here, just enough instability coming in with these potent dynamic Pacific storms coming in on the bottom side of that Aleutian low. General thunderstorm probabilities do increase here by day 3, that is Wednesday, up through parts of the lower Mississippi Valley, Arklatex region, and what have you. But no organized tornado hail threat, of course not. Just random garden variety thunderstorms. All right. All right. Jump off the screen share just for one more time. Take a peek here at our chat. Love seeing the folks interacting not only with each other, but with me. I appreciate it. Just seeing what you guys are talking about. Yeah, no snow on Christmas pretty much anywhere in the USA, it looks like. So Karen up there in PA, I think, is that right? 14 degrees here now was 12, going to be 16. So Karen reminds me of what I just talked about here. So it was 14 now, 12 for the low up in Pennsylvania, only 10 degrees warmer than that here. 19 was our low, so 7 degrees. But you get what I'm saying? In a normal, deep, cold shot, I would expect to see Karen saying it was -5 here when we are in the teens. It was just the angle of the trough and the source region that it just wasn't brutally cold. Anyway, I've covered that enough. Thought I'd mention it one more time. All right. What about the beyond the 7-day time frame? Again, Colin, earlier I showed you talking about the chance of more winter weather and wet weather returning for California finally. So what does that look like? Let's first of all make sure that this stays on the 6Z run. So there's the first 168 hours. That's 1 week. What about beyond that time frame? Well, maybe by then at hour 228 here, and this would be a big storm for the West, Washington and Oregon included, also starting to get down into California, Northern Sierra. But to Colin's point, most of it's going to be rain, very heavy rain, again, 228 hours out. But this is a big weather feature. These atmospheric rivers are not like a hurricane or a nor'easter where we're all wondering what's the track going to be? Is it going to be near that benchmark? Is it going to be too far out? When you're talking about snow for Boston, New York, and DC, that matters. And that's where you get these hyperbolic posts from people that just don't understand long-term forecasting or long-range forecasting. Whereas a huge Pacific cyclone, as long as it comes into the West Coast, there's going to be a big storm. And where it comes in and what the effects are kind of don't matter as much. And that's a much larger storm system, and it's easier for the models to resolve than trying to figure out where these Miller A and Miller B systems get their origin. Anyway, nuts and bolts stuff, but it's important because at 228, you wouldn't talk about a big nor'easter sitting here off the benchmark roughly with big time snow for Boston and the I-95 corridor. You couldn't do that as a respectable meteorologist. It would be irresponsible. But talking about a huge storm coming off the Pacific in 10 days makes more sense. It's all about context and what you're talking about. It really is. So, anyway, all that being said, near day 10, looks like a big storm coming into the Pacific Northwest. Finally, snow elevations lower past day 10, and they get in on the action finally. But no major, I mean, that's okay. That's an interesting one at hour 312, 3 days after Christmas. 974 millibar surface cyclone. That could pull some very cold air behind it, blizzard conditions around it. But again, not one of these blockbuster I-95 crippling snowstorms that everybody talks about. Still not seeing anything like that to speak of at all. And in fact, this is kind of the antithesis of it. Way out on the 29th of December, not much at all for the lower 48 here. If I just outline it to show you, there's not much weather at all in terms of snow, rain, or whatever. Nothing. So again, that's kind of the opposite of hype. Will this come to fruition? We'll have to wait and see. Finally, getting out towards New Year's Eve, more of the same, just kind of mediocre, middle of the road, garden variety winter storms, no big blockbuster events, apparently, to round out the year. Going back to the current time, I do want to show you this temperatures because I've talked about it enough. Cold now, warming up very soon. Oh, yeah. Look, there's another shot that comes through, though, around the 20th. But after that, we start to warm things up nicely, especially toward Christmas. Uh, Much better than it is now, anyway. And then towards the new year, maybe even warmer than that. So we'll keep an eye on. Yeah, really, this is the stuff up here. Minus 23, minus 25, those pinks and purples. Let's keep all that north of the border, shall we? That will work fine with me. All right. Tomorrow it is Tech Tuesday, and I'm telling you, and I know I'm biased because I'd love for you to tune in, but you're going to want to tune in for this. Again, CJ will be joining me tomorrow for the show as a whole, but on tomorrow's Tech Tuesday, I am going to talk about these guys right here, drones, and how effective they are in weather coverage. And we're going to also talk about the apparent drone ban that could be coming for the company that makes that their drone, the DJI. So it's all going to be related, where geopolitical stuff and the weather collide. Appropriate topic where we talk about the tech itself, how we've used it. I'll show you some examples over the years, talk about a couple failures that happened with this very incredible piece of cinematography that is right in our hands. Uh, and again, the sort of controversy around the DJI drone ban that could be happening right there before Christmas. All of that on tomorrow's Tech Tuesday. All right. All right. I think that's it. So let's jump back over here. Oh, I did. I want to show you one more thing right there. So we are on Patreon, and I like this ad that they put out there. If you would like a unique gift, again, they have over 300,000 creators on Patreon, and that's how we crowdfund pretty much everything that we do. And they actually do have a way for you to gift a membership to Patreon. So if you know somebody that's into the weather and you want to gift a membership to ours or Tornado Talk or any of the other weather related content producers on Patreon, or something completely like fashion or comedy or podcasting or astronomy, it's all there. And in fact, I am a member of the Patreon Ambassador Program, and we do this wonderful meeting each month, and we get to see other people that are doing everything. They got a guy that does just snake stuff. Really, really cool. Some of you don't like snakes, that's fine. Anyway, it's all on Patreon. It's amazing, and you can actually gift memberships through Patreon right there. Patreon.com/, I can't say it, explore slash, wow, speech therapist, or maybe I'm just too cold, /gift. That is truly hilarious. I cannot say the word slash. I don't say it very much, so maybe I've just not practiced at it. Anyway, that's Patreon, and we're proud to work with them and through them and have done so since about 2016. If you want to give a gift, it's pretty easy to do so, even if I can't say the word. All right? One more check to see who's here and say my goodbyes for today, and we're done. All righty, all righty. Love Tech Tuesday. You're going to love tomorrow, that is for sure. And all the snow here in Iowa will be gone by the end of the week. Yup, crazy shifts. That's exactly it. How fast it can change. Well, good. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. Talking Weather with Mark Sudduth. Thank you for tuning in. First, I will unshare, have full screen me for a moment. By the way, I can't wait to get in here and not be wearing a hoodie. Really. Like, it is so cold, Mark's wearing a hoodie. And for people that really know me, you know that's a big deal. My daughter saw me in pants the other day, jeans and a nice golf shirt. And she was like, what's going on? Like, well, why are you dressed up? Anyway, I don't wear that stuff usually. I'm t-shirts and shorts guy. All right, drop the video first, leave the audio up as I say goodbye to you. Thanks for hanging out with me on Talking Weather. I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll see you tomorrow with my good friend CJ Morgan, and we'll keep at it then. Have a good rest of your Monday. See you tomorrow.